Well, welcome back as we kick off the second half of Day 3 here, Week 7 of the Overwatch Pacific Championship. This is the official English broadcast, and if you are just joining us, my name is Matt Pixie Carroll, and of course joining me here is the esteemed Kevin Alvar Walker and the effervescent Matt Smite Ross. We're going to be kicking it off now with Machi Esports taking on SunSister, the power of friendship. Let's meet SunSister.
SunSister still sitting at the bottom of the table, yet to get their first win on the leaderboard, and I don't know, they are going up against Machi, and it's going to be difficult for them to even get their win here tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately for SunSister, they're at the bottom of the table for a reason. They have not improved as much as the other teams have. That's not to say there's been zero improvement. They have been getting better, but unfortunately still not to the level of Detonator, the team above them, or even Fireball, who are just sitting slightly above as well.
And we do speak of them in relative terms like we do with the other Japanese team, Detonator Gold, and that what they really need to show here is improvement. Machi, on the other hand, are actually continuing to hit a stride of consistency. They certainly want to push it up a level, but these aren't exactly the teams they're going to be doing that against.
Machi coming straight off their victory against Detonator as well. One Japanese team ticked off the list, looking for their number 2 Japanese team to also check off as well for a quick 2-0 victory to put on their scoreboard. And you know what? They're 4th and they're looking to break number 3, so they need every win they can get.
Yeah, now some thoughts from the captains of the teams.
Elu on the left.
最近はですね、少しずつ練習の成果が出てきていると感じられますので、この調子で頑張って1勝をつかみ取りたいと思います。よろしくお願いします。
好的，我简单的翻译一下，他是说他们有认真的练习呢，慢慢的展现，希望这场比赛可以胜出。那我们请 Naz 也跟我们说几句话好吗？
Practicing very hard for this.
お願いします。
哦，是用日文来回应哦，非常好。那我们就要先礼后兵一下，
we're really hoping to
谢谢。
show a good performance tonight. And then,
感
I
谢
didn't
两位
quite
选手。
catch what
同样
No
在
Talk
比
said
赛
there
开
because
始
he
之
said it
前
in
呢，
Japanese directly to Elu. So
Look, I'm not going to claim to be fluent in Japanese, but I do believe that's was sort of a form of, not like a thanks, but like a kind of sign of respect, which I think was actually very noble of him there. I'm going to be completely honest, and it's actually quite nice to see Machi kind of extending that well-wishing to SunSister. Tear to my eye.
Yeah, something SunSister have also said before in some of the couch interviews as well, or at least the stage interviews too, is that they want their fans to know that even though they haven't picked up a win yet, that they have been improving. They know that they've been improving, and they want their fans to see that too. So I think that's the most important thing to watch in the series tonight as well, is how much they have improved ever since day 1. If you feel like it, go back to day 1 and catch SunSister as well, because it's a different team now. They are performing a lot better, but unfortunately for them, they are still yet to, if I'm not mistaken, even take a map off any of the other teams apart from Detonator, and they're still not expected to do that tonight against Machi.
I believe they have taken maps off Fireball.
I think you're right, yeah. But I mean, that also being the 3rd place team, so you're right, there is...
Third last.
Third place to last is what I mean. Like, when I say 3rd, I'm thinking of like 3rd from the bottom, but certainly, yeah, that's really the situation for SunSister. And like we said, I mean, this is a team where we are measuring their improvement, and we are looking at them and going, okay, well, have they fixed mistakes that they've been making previously? And they're completely right. They actually have so far. They haven't quite done that enough to really be challenging some of these other teams for like significant placements. But look, all improvement is good improvement for these teams. So with that in mind, what specifically do we maybe want to see out of SunSister tonight?
A little bit of consistency. I think SunSister is a team where I've personally looked at these guys, and they're still figuring out themselves. So internally, they're not too sure what's working yet. When you look at XQQ as a player, they're starting to get on that right track. Maybe we play him more on the Genji, maybe stick him on the Soldier a bit more. Those are his 2 picks that they're getting a decent amount of results out of. It's sort of finding how they build their team around each other and finding compositions that work. So they're sort of in that stage right now. If they can get that locked down and not have to worry about like, oh, what are we picking here? What's XQQ going to play? What's our team look like around that? Then they'll be starting to make more improvements.
Yeah, I think that is definitely something they need to fix, because as well, Mollis, who is the other DPS player, his Tracer play has actually improved over the last few weeks. And I think he's actually starting to get really good results. Can he compete with some of the top Tracers? Not just yet, but he's on the path to getting at least towards that level. So I think Mollis is, it's kind of weird to say, but almost an example of how XQQ should be seen during these games, right? Where he should be just playing these standard heroes where he can get consistent results out of. And if they can match that and have that dynamic duo, those two DPS that are just always there, always getting those consistent results, getting those kills where Mollis is just in the back line, maybe he's getting a pulse bomb, maybe he's just getting kills in general, and then XQQ is there to clean everything up. That would be fantastic for SunSister.
No Maze, no Widowmakers, maybe even no Sombras. But the interesting thing about XQQ, of course, he actually came in partway through as a substitution and actually impressed us the first time we saw him. We really did feel like, okay, cool, this is something that's working where previously they were struggling, and they had replaced Night Owl, who is now back on. So they've had a bit of shuffling around. I feel like they've got a lineup that is really, really solid. And you're right, I feel like that extra little bit of let's figure out how to get XQQ consistently playing these particular picks and then playing them consistently and then building around that ideally. Because they seem, like you said with Mollis, they have the other things to complement that if they can do that.
And to be honest, he's a good mechanical player himself. Speaking of XQQ, still, he's kind of the talking point of the team, to be really honest. And
Speaking of.
yeah, and this is the lineup. You can see for yourselves, they've stuck to this for so long now. Kira 44's kind of sort of dropped off into the sub role while Night Owl's back on the team. And I'm just going to finish up what I'm mentioning about XQQ is realistically, he should be looking at what Amiken's doing and kind of emulating that, because Amiken is... He has very solid individual picks where, look, this is exactly what he's good on, this is exactly what he gets results on, and if XQQ can repeat that success, then I believe SunSister can start making their way up.
Yeah, well, here we have Elu, and is he just like pointing over to Night Owl? Interesting, actually, by the way, because I mentioned it, Night Owl.
Thumbs up.
Night Owl was actually the person who built this team, was the person who brought this team together, and it was quite interesting that when we first saw XQQ, it was Night Owl who he wasn't replacing him, but that was where the substitution happened. And I would say that's almost Night Owl stepping back going, look, I don't think I can really figure out how XQQ is going to gel on this team while playing on it. Obviously wanted to step back and be more of an observer to that and then figure out what was going to work when they then brought him back on to replace, like you said, Avril, Kira 44. You can kind of see the picks running down, and actually, aside from XQQ, everything looks pretty stock standard, but we do say of XQQ, you couldn't fit them all on that. I mean, that is misleading. Let's be honest. He plays those things, sure, but he also plays Orisa, he plays Widowmaker, he plays Sombra, he plays Hanzo, he plays anything he feels
Really,
like.
though, in a more realistic sense, Soldier should be on that list.
Exactly.
Probably above McCree, I would say, because he is mostly flexing between Soldier and Genji, which kind of reminds me of both K4 and Zonda, because that's their spot too. And here we go, Ristia still.
I mean, I know that this is part of the Machi logo, but I can't figure out what it actually is.
I'd like to think it's a sugar cube.
Yeah, I'm going for Sugar Cube. It's like a cross between a Sugar Cube and Snoopy. It's like, that's why I said Sugar Cube, because my mind was thinking Snoopy. So,
well, yeah. I mean, okay. So we talked about SunSister. Well, we've talked about XQQ really, but there's also Machi as well. We've already seen them tonight, and they've had a pretty expected result up against Detonator. Something a little bit shaky came out on Hanamura, but they did come out on top in the end anyway. But also, I didn't actually get to say this after the match. I think Nunez has, I wouldn't necessarily give him MVP from the last series, but I'd say most improved player, or the one that fixed most of his issues during that last, since the last few weeks, right? Because a lot of the time you see his Dragon Blades can be either fantastic or really fall flat and just get put to sleep, or he's going after divas, anything in between. So the fact is, in that series, we actually saw most of his Dragon Blades actually get a fair amount of value. Whether it's 1 or 2 kills or just, the whole 4-kill play of the game, they were actually doing their job during that. So
Yeah. I want to say as well for Machi in particular, this is also his team with the 7-man roster. They have substituted out Rai, who we haven't seen for a long time now. So similar to SunSister, they made a couple of change-ups roster-wise, and they are now kind of starting to go on the up. Now, Machi's been on the up since, a couple of weeks ago, ever since they beat Flash Wolves. And it has been, maybe the Rai substitution is one of the key factors for them going on that rise.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a bit of that, and it's been a bit of Nunez fixing his mistakes. It's been a bit of the team as a whole fixing their mistakes, right? But it has resulted in what we saw across the second round robin, which was their pick up from, I believe, at the worst, they were third to last at one point, and then managed to claw their way up. Now sitting at 4th place, they are actually looking like a very real contender for playoffs. There's still a few things, really dependent on that, right? But they actually have a possibility, a very real possibility, more so than the previous team to be at that place, Hong Kong Attitude. We also just saw the map pick through. It is going to be Nepal. That was SunSister's pick. So, opening thoughts about Nepal as a map here?
Yeah, it's interesting because SunSister are the team that usually pick Lijiang, so I'm thinking here, preparation-wise, people have gone away for a week. They have come back and said, we're not just going to go for Lijiang again. It's expected from us. It's predictable. We're going to go for something different, and they have practiced this. The other part of this is also maybe SunSister, if they're looking at Machi's history as well. I don't think we've seen much of Machi on Nepal at all.
On the flip side of the coin, which might scare some of you a little bit as well, is Nepal's a map where
Do I need a teddy bear?
XQQ might be able to flex some of his other heroes, and whether that's going to be the right answer or not, it may be what SunSister have for their reasons for picking Nepal, right? You think about Village as well, a bit of an old school strat, but May does come out on that. In fact, sometimes it still does to this day, very rarely now, but that's something that XQQ might have in his mind. And Sanctum is a map that can get a little bit hectic, and I think throwing
the floor
XQQ
is slippery
into
enough without May even being there.
throwing XQQ into Sanctum, who knows what can happen? I mean,
Actually, I got a little bit of an inkling, but I have started to see a few legitimate Orisa plays on Sanctum, particularly because there is...
I get told off every time I bring up Sombra. Not Sombra, Orisa.
But it is. I'm starting to bring up places where you may actually see legitimate places where Sombra exists. I'm not going to say successful. I'm not going to say like this is a thing that everyone's going to do.
But it's something teams are trying.
But it does exist somewhere out there that is at least half legitimate.
And XQQ has actually played Orisa with mixed results, as every Orisa has had. I mean, really since release in terms of competitive play, but that is actually a thing. And the other thing we kind of have to appreciate as well, as much as we say he's got this really weird, really wide champion pool, and sometimes he just seems to play odd things that don't make much sense, I do feel that needs to be reined in a little. But it is also something SunSister are aware of. They're obviously using it and possibly even working around it. So maybe they do actually have a particular planned, like you said, May-oriented strategy, or dare I say it, an Orisa strategy. So you're actually quite right there. As much as we do kind of want XQQ to kind of curb it and be playing more like Soldier and the Genji and the stock standard DPS of the day, there is room for them to be playing these offbeat comps.
the other thing as well is there may be no other flip side of the coin, right? It may just be that Nepal is a great map for them. XQQ just stays on Genji the whole time, and they actually just play very standard for all 3 or 5 maps, right? So,
but definitely not 4.
definitely not 4, right?
Yeah.
I think. Well, to be fair, I think on Nepal it's either going to 3 maps or it's going to 5. There's no in between.
Okay, so the other thing is you do want to consider when you look at how SunSister operate as a team, it's almost a problem we have when Anakin goes onto Sombra, right? You don't want your best DPS player to then sink all of his damage output into this sort of hero. So when you put that into XQQ, it's kind of the same story again. It puts a lot of pressure on Mollis, who has improved, but let's be honest, he's still within the lower tier of traces so far in the tournament. Look, he's far behind Shaolin, and he's definitely not even close to Bacon Jake or AU up. So putting that much pressure on one guy to perform when XQQ flexes onto something that's not consistent is a bit of a pitfall for SunSister.
Yeah, that is actually a fair point. But I mean, to kind of speak to the other side of that, just, we did also mention, a compliment towards Mollis there. Yeah, sure, he's not really on the level of Bacon Jack and IE up specifically. I would argue the Shaolin thing, I think in general you're correct, but we are actually seeing, against on Hong Kong Attitude, on AHQ, he is actually able to go toe-to-toe with some of these traces. The rest of the team isn't able to go toe-to-toe with the rest of the other team, but there is this kind of space here that Mollis is slowly coming into, and you do start to wonder where the ceiling is. So with that in mind, he can actually push a little bit beyond what our current expectations are, whereas I don't know if I can say the same for those traces that we already consider to be at the top of their game right now.
So the problem isn't Mollis again, it's he's just where he is and that's fine.
Yeah.
The problem is, if I've already compared XQQ's sort of player pool with the Genji Soldier to be similar to K4, similar to even Anakin, and very similar to Zonda as well. Now Zonda, He just plays pretty much Soldier 24/7.
And it's
he doesn't
great.
even bring the Genji out really. Now, K4 still brings both out, and it works for the team, but none of these guys sacrifice the power of their DPS play, sacrifice the power of their individual damage output to flex onto something weird that is not going to be consistent. That's something XQQ does, and that's something Anakin specifically only does on Sombra, and it does make a difference. And the difference it makes is unfortunately negative.
I think it's actually pretty well broken down there. There's something a bit different with SunSister I kind of want to touch on. I mean, we can talk about where these DPSs sit and what has been going right and what's been going wrong for the team, but we really do need to put some attention, I think, where attention is due, and that is on their tanks. Their tanks do seem to struggle a lot with positioning, more so than anyone else on the team, and I would say that is where the biggest weaknesses of SunSister still lie.
I'd say specifically it's more on Zetman because it can be a little bit feast or famine when you're playing Winston. You either dive in, get a ton of harass down, dive back out and survive, or you dive in and you get focused down and die straight away. A Denkin, I think, does an average diva job, does actually protect his team, eat up the odd ultimate here and there, and does answer a lot of soldiers when they become a threat. So I do think a Denkin, in that sense, he's actually doing okay. But Zetman, it's a kind of a tricky thing to fix, but knowing when to jump in and actually being able to survive with the backup of your team is actually what is going to make or break SunSister tonight.
And also, Odinkun has been flexing onto Soldier and other DPSs as well, so he's been their go-to third DPS pick if they want to go in that direction.
And that actually just kind of compounds the pressure on Zetman to tank and play that Winston effectively. We do have to kind of appreciate that. And we've been talking lately actually about Winstons and the kind of feast or famine nature of that. And if they do end up getting caught out, if they do end up getting focused down, you leave all of that DPS very, very exposed. In any case, all this and more as we hit the frosty streets of Nepal. And if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be Sanctum first.
Sanctum, and this is where we're going to see if SunSister are going to bring out anything sort of strange. And I don't believe that's going to be the case.
No.
Not so far from what we just, the minor glimpse we got of the lineup starting out does look very standard coming up from both sides.
Yeah. By the way, we do just have a brief pause, so do stick tight for a moment. We'll figure out what's going on with that. We'll have updates for you soon. Hopefully it won't be too long, but I want to continue touching on that kind of tank thing that we talked about, because we can say that tanks are fairly adequate. There are mistakes being made. Do we have anything in particular we want to address in the two healers in Elu and Night Owl?
So something that does actually happen for SunSister quite often, specifically on Control, is that one of those two, I'd say probably more often Night Owl, does just get killed before the fight's even begun. The Tracer snuck around into the back line, taking him out, and that's something that just happens a little bit too often. And really that does need to be sorted if you want to start winning these fights in Control.
The other thing about Night Owl is, in terms of flexibility, this is more of a positive side, is that he was the prior DPS player for the team, which means he kind of has the opportunity to sort of flex onto more DPS-oriented stuff as well. So actually, if SunSister go for a Sombra kind of play, it's usually Night Owl that picks that up, and it's a better pickup than putting XQQ on there. You don't want to go the route where that Detonator have gone down to. You want to make sure that you're playing more so what other teams that are successfully running Sombra are doing, which is putting your kind of the Ana position of the support onto there as well. So yeah, that's something that Night Owl can also bring to the table. So in terms of SunSister, I think they're they're one of the better horizontal teams, and they can cover a lot of bases. Just vertically, they're not quite there yet. They're not matching up with other teams.
Yeah, and just to be clear as well, like we talk about this a lot in terms of SunSister, by the way, because I mean, they're the team coming into this with something to prove, to be sure. I do kind of want to talk about the other side of this, though, which is, of course, Machi. Why is it that we're looking at SunSister going, they're the ones that have something to prove? And what actually has it been about Machi that has really had them on the up and up? Because the first time these teams met, it did look good for Machi, but it still wasn't, like, amazing. It was like, yeah, these teams are kind of on the level and Machi are a little bit better, right? So what's been going right for Machi since then?
Might you just look more and more consistent to start things off with the cohesiveness, the coordination, Kant going on there, the big change up again, moving right off, moving Kant onto the DPS position. Kant and Nunez have been working together pretty well. We saw in the interview as well, Kant has said, look, we're going to need better coordination still, but it's something we're very much focusing on. So it is something that they obviously know internally this is what they're working on, and it is starting to show. I'm seeing the results of that even from tonight.
I think you kind of knocked it on the head nail on the head, whatever, when you use the word consistency, right? Because that applies just to the individual players as well in their specific results. I mentioned it before. Nonez looking a lot more consistent with his Dragon Blades, where really before they were quite binary, either a success or kind of a fail. And I'd say that applies to a lot more of the team. Not as often in those big moments like Dragon Blade, but even DCR1 is not dying immediately every time he goes into a fight, right? He is actually getting in there, surviving, and actually living sometimes.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that as well, actually. The other player I think that's cleaned up a lot on Machi has been DCR1. And I don't know, maybe he's just like, I think there might just be like a Winston curse that's getting passed from like person to person, and he's finally got rid of it and handed it over to Trill or something.
Because here's the thing about DCR1 is he actually replaces a Ting for me. And if I was gonna have a weighted list of who I think are good tanks in the competition, a Ting drops down for me and DCR1 picks up his position because DCR1 when you look at his results.
That's what happened. He handed it over to a Ting.
That's probably that's more accurate.
Yeah. And now a Ting's handed it to Trill.
I don't know.
But I think it's like hot potato. They're kind of going back and forth.
That can't be possible because a Ting is currently in a bad spot as well. So
who's got the idiot ball? I can't tell. Maybe it's going to be DCR1 in this one.
I don't know. I think
maybe
in terms of a team, when we talk about the fact that teams are now moving forward and working together as a more cohesive unit, the tanks are definitely a real key part of that as well. So you do see in DC1's play, you do see him getting a lot more success than the other tanks that we've seen sort of around that level and below, especially when you compare him to a Ting which is, the fourth and fifth best team. That's a bit of a gap in that. When you start to compare players, sort of pound for pound, a Ting just doesn't sort of weigh up compared to DCL1 right now.
No, certainly not right now, yeah. And one of the interesting things, we talk a lot about how teams handle the DPS itself when we talk about triple DPS, but we don't really talk that much about what actually goes on the other side of that, which is with the tanks and how they have to change how they're playing. Because we lose the Zaryas, we lose the Reinhardts and all that jazz, and it is very much Winston-oriented. So it's actually quite an interesting thing that you bring up there, because that's where a lot of the test for these tank players has been.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very different going from Reinhardt to Winston, and unfortunately that's a skill that a lot of these main tank players actually have to have. You have to be able to play both of these heroes. One of them is just going to jump in very, very deep as well, and then is expected to get out alive under constant focus fire. So it's a big ask for players on Winston to be able to do that consistently every single time. Half the time, that's still not good enough, because then you're essentially throwing away half of your fights. Then you move on to Reinhardt, and it's a very slow, calculated playstyle where you want to dive sometimes, but they have to be incredibly calculated, because you get punished if you go too deep or you miss your charge.
Yeah, just a quick update there. Issues are actually still being resolved in the B Stadium over in Taiwan. And with that, we're going to go to a quick break while they fix up what's going on. We'll have all these questions answered before long, I'm sure, in Nepal. So don't go anywhere.
But I'm afraid.
Surprise!
Surprise! It came a little bit abruptly, but actually tech issues have now been resolved, and we're getting straight into this match. No hesitation, let's get over to Nepal!
Map's already started, players already fighting, things are happening.
XQQ is not playing May.
And that's a good thing that's happening for SunSister.
Odenkirk is actually on the soldier, like you said. They're running
it's triple DPS.
I like this.
Triple tank on the other side.
Yeah. I like this. SunSister can actually execute it well, and like we said at the top of this, I like that they're going for something a bit more stock standard and also building this around XQQ playing something normal.
And I like seeing triple tank versus triple DPS. It's the battle of the what composition here is better. Yeah. So far, there's a lot of damage output from SunSister. They're going to pick up kills. They're also going to drop a couple members here.
They do lose XQQ, and there has been a nano boost to come out of Machi. SunSister were playing that really well. There was very consistent, constant pressure, but luckily for Machi, they were able to hold out just long enough to get these crucial ultimates. Sound barrier out just to secure it. It was maybe not have been necessary, but I don't disagree with that as a call. And they do clean out. That was actually quite tight there. Machi kind of got that all in the nick of time.
And Machi eventually hold on. This is the difference between the compositions, is with triple tank, you got enough health that if you can't get enough kills, you do just heal everyone back up. Now, triple DPS is a lot more fragile. That's why you see, as soon as XQQ went down, the next guy went down, the next guy went down. Suddenly, SunSister fell completely apart.
Yeah, well, here we go. The hard commit out of SunSister as XQQ goes diving in. They do get 2, but Odinkun, he's not really getting much with this tactical visor. And that's going to be known as one coming out. Night Owl coming out with the Transcendence now. Where was that when you were trying to save XQQ and Mollis? I feel like that was a bit of a poorly committed ultimate out of Night Owl.
A little bit late to the party. I'm actually going to take advantage of that. They're going to clean up the remaining members. So you keep whoever you had alive at that point alive, but it was kind of, like you said, it was a little bit late, a little bit pointless. And
I mean, he could have used it earlier and kept a lot more people alive.
Exactly. We're now sitting at plus 50% for Machi. They've still got ultimates coming online. SunSister, they're not going to have anything to defend against specifically the Graviton Surge when it comes up.
In any case now, SunSister, it is on them to actually still pull off a successful attack. Unfortunately, the Pulse Bomb catches out Kiyomi. This could be the window for SunSister. The ultimate not really getting much for Kant as he gets back in the mech, but he's already low. They're really putting the pressure on Zetman ulting as well. SunSister don't have much more to go off here. DCL1 commits an Earth Shatter, but he actually pays for it with his life. And the team can't really follow up on it. They do pick Zetman, but that's it. SunSister didn't even have a sound barrier they could have committed if things got dire. That was actually just a really well executed fight by SunSister.
Yeah, Odinkun is all picking up the majority of the kills, or at least finishing up the members. XQ going to try and chase out the remaining falling back members of Machi, but it was a good fight by SunSister. Awful whip Earth Shatter coming out from DCL1, punishes DCL1, then gets the remaining members off that punish. Now Machi got to come in for the retake if possible. Graviton Surge, the weapon of choice.
Yeah, and that was one you actually mentioned they had last fight as well. SunSister have a bit more in their pocket this time. Sound Barrier out along with the Dragon Blade. They do get DCL1 now starting to clean them up, but the Graviton Surge is actually quite good, just unfortunately couldn't follow up on it. Rescue committed a Sound Barrier onto only a few members there. SunSister can actually clean up even more kills, get a little bit more ult charge in the bank. Unfortunately losing XQQ off the back end, but they do have time to regroup. Or maybe they don't. Zetman's low.
Not really, yeah, you're right. They don't have time to regroup
dear.
because Machi going to go straight back into this. There's the Transcendence from Night Owl again. What's he going to be able to save with
does save
this?
Zetman actually. That was very key, and that's bought enough time for XQQ to rejoin the fight. So in a dire little spot for a second there, SunSister have actually found the opportunity to reset. Unfortunately, losing Night Owl straight after and Zetman being pressured out means that Machi have the positional advantage. And DCL1 going flying by. They're not really capitalizing on it though. They're not really capitalizing on this window just yet. So this is still time on the point for SunSister. And now with the kills coming through, they're going to be able to kind of reset this one.
And they're actually starting to get ahead in terms of progress now, or at least catching up, especially with all these kills coming out. You had a little bit of a split offense there. You see DCL1 chasing Zetman off to the side. The rest of Machi was sort of playing around the point and chasing the other remaining members. And you're at the point where SunSister do in fact retake and they get themselves over the line in terms of progress, and Machi, they're now on the back foot. They got ultimates and they will have to commit really hard. Nanovisor is going to be the next choice.
Yeah, SunSister don't really have many ultimates of their own, but they are close to some key ones. And it's going to be the visor already out of Nones, and it gets Elu. Poorly positioned by him. It's the nano boost as well. He actually could have turned the corner and spotted Night Owl there, but doesn't quite get it. They do get straight onto the point with this, but now he's going to be the counterattack out of SunSister. XQQ trying to clean the form, but put to sleep. Oniken does have a tactical visor, but rightfully holds onto it as the sound barrier. Oh, never mind. I'm a liar. He goes and commits through that sound barrier, never mind, and it doesn't work out. So that's just less tools they have now for the next counterattack, which has to come now 99% into overtime. Elu dropped. No one's really here to contest. They're struggling to regroup to get onto this one, and no one is going to touch it. Machi do claw it back.
Losing 3 there as well, getting 0 trades. I mean, that retake from Machi, off an Earth Shatter onto XQQ with the Dragon Blade, that was a big shutdown because XQQ needed a lot more kills. He got 1 good start. He needed a couple more to be able to really push it into SunSister's favor, and Machi they recovered extremely well after that, re-securing the point. They already had enough of a, they sort of progressed enough on objective that they could have just won it right then and there. So just killed another 3 members, pushed the rest of SunSister away, and that's a win, but it was actually pretty close.
Yeah, I will actually really credit the major fight there SunSister had in holding that point up until that kind of spot. After winning the fight, they were in a bit of a scatter position. XQQ got picked, and Machi had a window. They committed on that window, and SunSister held on. Machi kind of didn't capitalize as best as they could, but SunSister held on, kind of half stabilized, and then lost a couple of members. Did that about 3 times, and then actually still managed to win the fight. That was actually really solid.
Let's see if they can repeat that performance now as we get onto Village. Pretty much the same picks. Odiken's going to go back on the Diva. probably a little bit of a safer pick, specifically against No Talk Zarya, looking to eat those Graviton Surges, but
Yeah.
early control by Machi directly on the cap.
Yeah, no triple DPS, just a standard 2-2-2, very dive-oriented here as well, but yeah, Machi just very well entrenched, and actually without that third DPS, they're kind of struggling to put down the pressure to take out these tanks. They do pick off Kiyomi, but without that DPS there, it's really all on Mollis and maybe Zetman a little bit, but they can't get on to this point. Machi had the cap through. They're trying to keep this one alive, actually. Getting Kant out of the mech is a pretty good way to go. Oh, if they pick No Talk, they do have a window here, losing Odinkun's mech, but they kind of want to commit to this maybe.
Doubled.
DCR1 and Nones are actually in a bit of trouble here. And Odinkun, he's... and the pilot form with the quick melee as well somehow manages to punch through that precision German engineering, takes a dive to reset the mech, and they will have time to rejoin the fight.
And this is good for SunSister. Machi had a pretty early lead there, which SunSister, again, are going to have to try and catch up on. So
What happened with Zetman there?
What happened with Zetman? I don't know. He's going to reset as well to get back in the mech.
Get back in the monkey mech, get back in his spaceship so we can go back to the moon, I don't know. But actually that's a really unfortunately timed jump off for him because they have to just sort of cede this one to Machi. They aren't here in a 6 versus 6. Now commits the ultimate to try and buy time, but XQQ goes anyway, yeah. Restia does commit a sound barrier as well, so Machi still in good shape. Didn't actually quite get the cap through, so if SunSister can get some kills here with the sound barrier running, they can turn it back around, but it is a tall order, and they will now be fighting through an Earth Shatter if it gets well placed. That's an okay one, but not really getting much for it. Now they're getting closed out with the Tactical Visor, the other tool they still had at their disposal. And SunSister committed all of their ultimates to what was probably a lost fight from the start.
Super early Transcendence as well. I'm not too sure what Night Owl was trying to get out of that. It wasn't in a response to any major threat coming out of Machi. No Graviton Surge, no Tag Visor. The Tag Visor came out way later, and there wasn't even an Earth Shadow. It was just a Transcendence, just to top players up, just to heal them up quickly. And then on top of that, XQQ died and wasn't saved by it. So all in all, wasn't really clean out of SunSister. Didn't really fulfill what they were trying to do there. Now it's going to be a chance for a retake of Dragon Blades.
It is indeed. That's going to be the open out actually already. The Nano Boost committed. XQQ doesn't find much at all with that blade. Goes right to Kant's self-destruct. The Graviton is still there. Was at risk of getting eaten until Odinkun went down, but he doesn't even need to commit it now because Odinkun went down and SunSister just kind of get cleaned up.
That was actually a good self-destruct defensively because, look, they knew the Dragon Blade was coming. They heard it. As soon as the Dragon Blade came out, they said, let's gather on the point, put the self-destruct down. XQQ is not going to be able to chase us in here. He tries anyway, immediately eats the self-destruct and dies. So you can't reflect that. I don't know. XQQ was pretty eager and the rest of SunSister didn't get much mileage either.
Now coming in for another commit. They're kind of lacking these aggressive tools in the Pulse Bomb and Dragon Blades. They might just have to get some picks, force some ultimates out. Odinkun going to throw in the self-destructive zone. Oh, catches Nones in it. That's really, really big. There's the Graviton. Doesn't quite get eaten. And they're trying to strike back here, but without DCR1, they're having a bit of a hard time of it. Mollis is still in this one, but possibly not for long here as Odinkun forced out of the mech. No Transcendence just yet to save the team.
There's one.
Night Owl, yeah. The moment he had it, he committed it, and actually he kind of needs to because there is this overtime. He is buying seconds on the point. They may be able to bring Zetman back in, and he is on the point ulting now. Yeah. XQQ can try and get back in on this one as well and maybe get a Dragon Blade, but this is all, you know, last ditch to maybe swing it around. This isn't going to be conclusive and convincing by SunSister, and XQQ getting picked off means no one nearby to contest the point, and Machi will cap a second one.
And that was a lot more convincing than Sanctum as well. The cleanup right at the end there, just anticipating the plays coming out from SunSister, and then even on top of that, a few misplays from SunSister, a couple of questionable Transcendences that honestly didn't get a lot of work done, fairly early used, didn't sort of trade with any other ults. So economy-wise, they were behind. In terms of individual plays, I'd say also behind. Specifically, we talked about Transcendence from Night Owl, also Dragon Blade from XQQ towards the end there, straight into a self-destruct and didn't really get kills.
Yeah, not even just towards the end, like the whole way through that that map there, actually XQQ wasn't really getting anything with those Dragon Blades.
So on the note of, XQQ going into that, I think he was just trying to get the resets to get out in time.
That's actually not a bad call there. You may not be wrong, but in any case, they have to clean this up still if SunSister really want to be in for a fighting chance here.
SunSister going to go back onto triple DPS. Maybe they felt like they had a better chance on that. At least the damage output, I agree, was better from SunSister on the triple DPS, but they got to make this work for them because, I don't know, they struggled to get through the tank so much, and Machi got to step to 2-2-2 now.
Yeah, struggled indeed. SunSister, yeah, I do actually like this triple DPS. I think it did actually work for them on Sanctum. Obviously had a reason to not pull it out on Village, but here we are, Shrine time. And Inconclusive to start with. Point is open and Machi the one's on it, so it's on SunSister to commit to this. And Zetman already low, means he has to back off. He goes down. Good follow-up by Machi, just secured that one. They do lose the mech on their Diva, but they're getting the kills through anyway, so it's not going to matter. The point will go over to Machi.
The problem I have with SunSister's playstyle right now is they're getting really passive with triple DPS. They need to find a way to actually get the damage in there. Machi, if you notice, are always in control of the cap first. It's always pressure on SunSister to recontest that cap and stop Machi from getting the early cap over and get their progress started. And SunSister continue to give away the early cap to Machi.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that even in that cap going over, they were positioned such that SunSister were the ones who had to assault onto it, and now they have to do the same in terms of the game as well, in that Machi hold the point and are gaining time on it. A lot of pressure on SunSister, and they already lose Night Owl. That's the sound barrier committed out of Machi to win that fight. Yeah, it ought to be a retreat. If they commit any ultimates here, they would be silly.
Mollis will probably be the only one to get it out of this one alive, so sacrificing 5 members will give Machi a little bit of ults to play with. They use a sound barrier in the middle of that, so I'm kind of glad for SunSister they didn't commit anything into the sound barrier. They've kind of realized the timing just wasn't there for them, but positionally, I would have took off playstyle again because the passive playstyle with triple DPS is costing them.
They will have a good run of ultimates for this fight, but Zetman's already out of the picture, so again, going to struggle. Nona's opening up with a Dragon Blade, looking to clean this one up. XQQ has already committed his, unfortunately couldn't hold on to that one, so SunSister, they do lose that, but they don't commit anything more. Surely, if they can't do it in this next fight, then they can't do it at all.
Well, we're going to get to about roughly 80%, and that's the important fight for Machi. If they win here, it's going to go straight into overtime, and I expect they just get the cap out entirely. For SunSister, though, you're right, this is the time, and it's essentially, apparently also the time for May, according to
Yeah,
XQQ.
all right. Well, he's used the ultimate. I suppose he has his reasoning. In any case, already struggling. Night Owl has to be kept alive by the sound barrier. They're starting to swing back as Odinkin opens with this tactical visor, but it's all getting eaten up. He manages to find the position to take Restia, though, and they do pick Kiyomi in that too. And like I said, if they can't do it here, they can't do it anywhere. And they did it with very little, only 2 ultimates committed. And now they're actually in an okay spot to hold this one.
It's just like they said, the overtime did come up, but the good thing is SunSister kept it over. They got a lot of ults in their bank now. XQQ's going to stick onto this main. It's going to be good for delaying, but delaying is not how you win this. You have to be able to win consecutive team fights to be able to actually secure shrine for your team. And this could actually be the last stage on Nepal as well, if SunSister do not get it done.
This May is going to take a fair time still to charge up the Blizzard. If he can get it within this next fight, then they actually are well poised. Going aggressive on this one as well. Zetman getting picked, though, is bad news. That's going to force out the Transcendence as Mollis' Pulse Bomb goes wide, and Machi have more in the bank as they pick Odinkin, Kiyomi, MVP. The Sticky Bomb going out, picking out Elu, and Machi are all over this one. SunSister, they had it all in their favor, had all the ults in the bank, but unfortunately could not cash the check, and Machi come in and thieve it right off them. Steal from the rich, give to the poor.
Stealing, well, it's not even stealing at this point, it's just expected. Machi taking it down 3-0 on Nepal, and I'm still questioning some of the transcendences coming out of right now because
a lot.
At the end there's 2 things. There's 2 real options you take. One, you're gonna use it to top up your members because they're low. He does that, but he's not saving some members in particular. He's losing members regardless of how he's using Transcendence. The second is you use it as a response to an offensive ultimate. There was no offensive ultimate, so really he's not achieving either of those options.
Yeah, he actually never used it to save them during an offensive ultimate. He only ever used it to try and keep a couple of teammates alive and protract the fight. But even then, he was doing it when members had already died. We highlighted that on Sanctum, right? There was a fight where 3 members were low. He didn't use it. Those 3 members died, the other 2 got low, and then he used it. That is bad timing. There is no such thing as a tempo transcendence like you may have a tempo resurrect.
Well, I mean, technically you could tempo health bars if everyone's still alive.
Yeah, if everyone's still alive, that's the thing. Doing it on the first 3 would have been a tempo transcendence, but even then, that just would have been one of the 2 situations in which you should use transcendence.
The ideal situation is still to actually counter out an ult because you're using.
The ideal is actually both. You can save your team and counter an offensive ult. That is
you
great.
would be saving your team by countering the offensive ult. That's kind of the theory behind it. Is you use one ultimate to trade for another ultimate on the other team. If you don't trade for another ultimate, you got a net loss there. So that's something that SunSister got to clean up as well.
It also, if you're using Transcendence without countering an ult, it means you were already losing the fight without the enemy team having to use ults to do it. And if you're in that position, that needs to be a much rarer occurrence for you to start playing on even footing, because if it's happening often enough that we're bringing it up post-game, then, well, you really need to start using it to counter our ults and not get in that situation in the first place.
Yeah, like it was a major glaring weakness. I mean, above all else, and I will say, actually, SunSister on most other fronts were executing fairly effectively. XQQ did have some struggles on Genji here and there, but like not even to the point where I can massively fault him. Maybe that's just because the Zenyatta was a more glaring weakness, but I mean, it's not often we actually look at one of the healers and go, man, this is not up to scratch.
Well, to be honest, it's you look at the healers when big mistakes like that do come out. So that's how you highlight bad healing play. But usually a good healing play, it kind of goes invisible. They're just doing their job unless an Ana gets a 6 lead dart, which does also happen as well. But I do want to highlight XQQ because I think he kind of did underperform, and this is the problem with his hero pool is such that he doesn't think he's doing enough work on Genji anymore, or maybe his team doesn't think he's doing enough work. He can't change the Soldier because Odinkun's playing Soldier. He can't change the Tracer because Mollis is playing, and he doesn't really play Tracer anyway.
Yeah.
So he goes to the Mei.
He's got McCree.
Yeah,
if
he's
he
got
really
McCree.
wanted.
I was going to say, like, he has at least a couple of other options in there before you go on to the Mei, and it's just weird to me he doesn't go for that.
I don't even feel like McCree fits that team comp, but Mei definitely doesn't. And I mean, if you have to pick between the two, like, surely you're going to take
Look, at that
McCree.
point, even Widowmaker would be better than Mei. That's saying something.
No, you're not actually wrong, because you could maybe get a headshot or two and swing the fight in your favor numerically.
So the way XQQ was playing, to me, what it looked like was he was going in for fights that had either a fantastic result or a terrible result.
See, it
for
didn't
him.
look like that to me because I don't wear glasses. I can't see.
Yeah, see, exactly right. Now, with my 2020 vision, what I saw was he was going in, and it looked like he thought, look, I can go in, get the resets, and get back out in time. And, you know, telling his team, look, it's fine, guys. And I think the biggest example of that was actually back on Village, where he just died in the middle of a self-destruct. And to a lot of people, that just looks silly. Like, why are you down there? Why are you next to an exploding Diva mech? Did you just have a mind blank? I think his plan was, the Diva mech, he saw it come out. And do you know what comes with a Diva mech that's about to explode?
A diva.
A baby diva, right?
Baby diva.
A baby diva. You go in there, you get the kill very quickly, and you dash straight out, and then you deny Diva getting back into a mech, getting another 600 hit points that you have to get through to win the next fight. So I think that seemed to be his plan of attack, but unfortunately, 80% of the time, it just didn't work. He would go in, maybe he'd get a kill, and then die straight away.
I feel like that's XQQ in a nutshell, isn't it? Like, maybe he's got a plan and we could probably justify it too, but like 80% of the time it's just not working.
I don't know how much I can. It's kind of justifiable, but it's kind of difficult to accept because
like that's an explanation, but you're right. It's difficult to accept.
It's because that's such a load. It's like, oh, if I just kill everybody.
If that's the plan, it's a bad plan.
It's to be honest, a safer play would be to, look, I'm just going to back off here, preserve my life, and then replay the team fight with our members. Look, I'll have lost the ultimate, but technically I traded an ultimate anyway, so it's a 1-for-1 trade. The self-destruct gets nothing because I don't get baited into it. Also, my Dragon Blade gets nothing, so we just reset the fight, and that's better than just me giving away both my ultimate and my life for a net gain for my opponent.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's kind of draw attention forward. Now, next map is, of course, going to be Numbani. This is Machi's pick. Kind of interesting, I suppose. I mean, Machi are a team that do like to go to Numbani. They tend not to because, a lot of the matches recently where they've had the pick, it's been against, the likes of Blank and things like that. Teams that you don't really want to take to Numbani. They've done it against AHQ. Wouldn't want to pick Numbani there if you can help it. So they are kind of going on to what I feel is quite a comfortable map for them.
Well, we just saw this, right? I mean, this is kind of a repeat.
Yeah.
We just saw this against
exactly.
Detonator Gold. So this is a prepared map, I would say, for Machi. This has been...
Yeah.
They said, look, we're going to be playing a hybrid tonight, a hybrid Pixie X and Y, and one of those is going to start with Nepal. So, sorry, for Numbani, that is.
Yeah, I
Or
think
the end maps. Temple of Anubis will be next.
It's hard to use the previous series as too much of an indicator because it was, in the way it turned out in the order of attacking teams, right, was that we never saw Machi have to go into the payload section of it. So this is all going to be on the assumption that SunSister can break past the first point, which I'm going to say right now is not likely to happen. But if it does, and if they do get a good amount of progress on the payload, then we haven't seen Machi on the payload section of it today. So I think, Machi are a team that should comfortably be able to push the payload pretty well. So again, favor very heavily towards Machi, but SunSister, look, maybe they can pull something out.
Like, maybe, but
I have no concerns about Machi's ability to push a payload.
yeah, like, certainly not in this matchup. Like, if this was someone else, then like maybe we'd say that. But yeah, I mean, the onus is still on SunSister to pull something out here. It is not on Machi to step up the game or anything. It's on Machi to maybe make further improvements. But even then, like you can just perform as good as you have been up until now without making any improvement, and the onus would still be on SunSister to make a shot.
There's no case at all where Machi picks a map and it's like, well, we've never pushed a payload here.
Yeah,
ever, like not even in my own personal.
We just first hold.
I've never seen there's just obviously they know how to play Numbani.
I'm not using that as like an example of Machi not knowing how to do it. Just
Wouldn't that be funny,
as an example of how much they demolished Detonator on Numbani. We didn't actually see anything past the first point. So
yeah, which means SunSister kind of
One
in
of
a
SunSister cap,
pretty
and
bad
then
spot.
And then like Machi just panicked. They're like, oh god, what do we do? Where do we stand?
No. It's like, wait, you have to push in this map?
What is that thing? Where's
Wait, this isn't 2CP?
Where's
not assault?
Where's Doomfist Gauntlet gone?
What? Did
Yeah, that's an
SunSister
important question, because what are we pushing here anymore? Because you're pushing a cart.
It's just a
with
cart.
an empty like glass chamber. Like there's nothing valuable there.
Well, the museum
That's
still
really
needs their
weird.
cart back. Like
That's all it is.
That looks like an
They're just returning
expensive.
the cart.
It looks like an expensive vehicle. Let's get real.
Yeah, I mean that makes some sense. You're not wrong, but yeah.
It'll be the case where you push it to the museum and they'll go, okay, cool, we'll take
So
the
here's the
fish.
thing, right?
And you're like,
That cart isn't far from the airport. So Doomfist arrived, attacked the airport, then went and stole his fist, and then left. And then later, all the heroes arrived, got off a plane at the airport, and then they went to the cart and like just pushed it to the museum. I love this. I'll never get tired of seeing Restia doing this. And he actually pointed out something interesting last time we saw this, AVRL, and that this spots out that
flank,
I don't know, yeah, that flank. I was going to say left side, but it's like, okay, left side if you're the attacker, right side if you're the defender. It spots out that flank. And last time we saw it, it was actually a Pharah that was there as well. So because of the direction of the little kind of targeting beam of the turret, you can actually tell it's a Pharah as well. Not going to spot out this one though, because SunSister running it right down the middle.
it's a low ground play. They're going to head towards the back of the point, all the way kind of towards the defender's respawn. And Machi kind of let that one go. Machi didn't try and collapse on there or anything. They didn't try and just take the fight right then and there, which I think there's an argument to try, but at the same time, they are playing... yeah, no, I think they actually should have probably tried that, because now they've given too much position to SunSister.
Yeah, they really had. They're kind of playing turret chicken as well. They're just sort of constantly repositioning it. I do like where they have it now, because this is hard for SunSister to force their way out of, but they picked Kiyomi and got the turret too. So they have the opportunity to put the pressure on, getting all the picks through now. This is going really well for them. The only one they've lost so far has been Zetman, but they can keep the pressure going if they so choose, getting DCR1 now, forcing No Talk out of the mech, and Nonez is kind of having to force his reposition well out of this one. Funnily enough, XQ is actually on the Soldier here, Mollis on the Genji, but SunSister are actually looking set to break this one. Maybe Machi are going to have to see what the rest of the map looks like.
It's actually still very even so far, and, you know, losing the mech as well.
Ooh,
nice
that's a
pick
little
up there for Kant, and it's... If SunSister want to break through, they need more kills.
Oh, that is a Molten Core coming out. I mean, they do need a few more kills, sure, but I mean, they're kind of keeping the pressure on. They did pick Nonez at a key moment there, but unfortunately not getting the extra kills, the last few ones they needed to close out. They did at least get a third. Not terrible, but I feel like there are a lot of opportunities there for them to close that fight.
It's a good start, but there was no setup. So I'm talking about when SunSister, yeah, they made the huge wrap around, they got into high ground, and then what? Like, what was the plan for them from then on? Because it kind of looked like they were going for a few picks, taking the sort of poke route and playing down the turret. They got the turret, they moved through, they started losing members, and then it all fell apart really quickly after they took position. It just looked like they didn't know what the second part of their plan was.
Unfortunately, they've now given the ult economy and the you only get this with Torbjorn armor economy over to Machi, who were looking really, really good here. The only thing they used in that one was the Molten Core.
And that speaks a lot to Machi's defense as well. Having to only use a Molten Core and get a full defense, that's why they have 5 other ultimates now.
Really hard commit by SunSister here as they open up with the Sound Barrier and the Dragon Blade, which goes directly into a Diva. We have certainly faulted that before. It was Nonez who had a big problem with that previously. It's a decent self-destruct out of Odin, can actually get a couple of nice kills. DCR1 can stall this out a long time though with the ultimate. Nonez able to retreat successfully as well, means that stall from DCR1 will do work because the respawns will come in. And actually, for what it's worth, that is what happened last time, the last fight with Machi, is they won it with so few ults because actually you kind of get a respawn advantage here as the defender on Numbani.
Well, SunSister managed to get themselves a second third of that cap.
Barely.
So they're starting to make their way through, but if you're working on thirds on the first cap, I think you're falling behind.
You certainly are. But look, hey, a cap would actually be better than what Detonator got, so you would be happy for it. I mean, the precedent here is you don't cap against Machi on this map.
Yeah. So far, you know, when we do compare to Detonator Gold's performance, so you're right, getting an actual cap out would be very important. They're playing against still a decent amount of armor on the Machi side, and SunSister's got a lot of health to burn through. They've only got Attack Visor. The last time we saw Attack Visor, it got taken out quickly.
Good pick on Kant though, and Kiyomi's sitting really far back from this one. I do like that, but he needs to get this nano boost up. XQQ opening up the Attack Visor. A lot of it getting blocked out though, so have to go into full retreat here as he's still just getting completely dealt with by this D.Va. Now they're starting to turn on the heat though as DCR1 is down. Yeah, Molten Core, but no turret. He's having to put one down now, and it gets taken out again. They are getting to the trade back though here, Machi and Restia, because he's got that armor on himself with the Molten Core, was able to keep it on lockdown, and they do complete themselves the hold.
That's the first time I've seen a Nano Molten Core, by the way. That's a new combo. Nano Core.
Nano Core. Molten Boost. I think Molten Boost is better. It's the only one that doesn't work with Nano and then the other one. It has to be Molten Boost, I think. But in any case,
I don't see what's wrong with Nano Core, but anyway.
But it's not as descriptive as like Nano Visor and Nano Blade. But like true. Nano Core, like what is that? Like that's just a health pack.
Yeah, what is that? Because it's like it's so unheard of. Because I think that is
so unheard of. We don't have a name for it.
That is the first time I've seen it, and sure, I guess it's effective because you're already super tanky inside the Molten Core mode. That just makes you even tankier, and your damage output is pretty scary already.
When you're in close range as well, funnily enough, with that Torbjorn, the right click is actually really devastating. So I can actually see
you turn into Roadhog.
Sorry?
You turn into Roadhog.
Yeah. I can actually see a kind of logic to that. It's a weird one, but yeah, I mean, look, it happened, and I suppose the soldier was actually dead, but look, SunSister failed to close that out. They did not ever finish off the kills. They really did seem to struggle, especially on that last push. It's like they were surprised that a D.Va came up to the high ground to deal with their tactical visoring soldier.
And also, you know, also Winston as well, DCR1 responded super quick. And it really goes to show Machi have a really good understanding of how to deal with these threats quickly, swiftly, and effectively. And meanwhile they did that, they still dealt with the other threats from SunSister on the ground level.
Yeah, I would say, generally speaking, SunSister's target selection was just not as good as Machi's. In fact, it was poor where Machi's was expectedly decent. In any case, different story now. On the defense will be SunSister.
Slightly worse turret placement, I think, than the initial startup.
Can't get that same spot.
You won't get the initial targeting, but at the same time, the argument here is that this is more of a permanent turret placement where you're looking to keep the turret there to do surprise damage later on when the other team doesn't find it immediately.
This is a Pharah and Mercy as well coming out on the attack. This is actually what Machi first held against themselves when they played against Detonator Gold just before. Already picking out that turret, good.
Good start.
Yeah, catching that one. SunSister are positioned really far back, which means they're actually going to cede control over this entire area to Machi before they have to commit into a fight.
They're re-attacking.
Machi already have a third. Yeah, who's attacking who here? Why is XQQ the one running up towards high ground? If they do pick up Kiyomi, which they do actually get, that is very nice for them, but they're losing members. They're losing way too many members. Now XQQ is forced back. Machi are going to do it. They just won.
That was a really quick run through. Okay, positionally.
Why did they give up all that ground?
This is the problem. Exactly what you said, because if you do that to a team like Machi or anyone around that level and better, what they'll do is they'll run through the back of Atria and that narrow corridor, and they'll just reconvene on the other side of the map on that high ground again. So you're playing high ground versus high ground still. They never lose control of the point the way SunSister just backed up. They went. When you look at what SunSister did, they actually went back towards their own spawn.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Like I said, I can't understand what the idea there was for SunSister, because Machi went in and they went, oh, look, they're just kind of giving us all the space.
This
Well, let's
play was
go in.
sick.
Yeah, let's go in and just take ownership of this whole ground. Let's make them come to us. Like, what was SunSister expecting Machi to do by giving them all that space? Did they think Machi just weren't going to take it?
And this is the other thing is when we look at Nepal and we look at Numbani as well, this is the kind of the same thing on Nepal. SunSister have too much respect, or they're just giving too much room to Machi, because when you go to Nepal, specifically Shrine was the most obvious case. When they met on the cap, Machi just stood there and SunSister were like, well, you have it, I'm backing up. That's exactly what happened on Numbani, except on Numbani, they had control of the cap, it's theirs, they're defending, and then as soon as Machi walked in, they're like, cool, you take that, I'm backing up.
Okay, you know what? It's like if you got mugged and the guy pulls a knife and he's like, give me your wallet. And then you're like, okay, and you reach for the wallet. And the mug is like, whoa, slow down there, and hands over his wallet and runs. That's what that's like, eh? Like, no sudden movements, dude. Like, just leaves. Like. In any case, look, SunSister are not in a good spot, man. Like, this is a much harder loss than Detonator took. And that is really the only point of comparison we have. And that's also Detonator, who are second to last.
Yeah, even on a play style, like we discussed individuals like, yeah, XQQ's doing this, yeah, Night Owl's doing that badly, but then as a whole play style wise, it's got highlighted here. They just leave. They're defending and they just leave.
It's kind of similar to how Detonator used to do a similar thing where they would get an advantage and then back off, but it's starting even before that, before that advantage is even gained. And I mean, sure, SunSister, they have to give some respect to their opponents, but if you're just respecting them so much that you're just giving up so much ground to them, like you're never even going to get in the position where you do have that 6 versus 5 advantage where you can pounce on it. And even if SunSister did get a kill at the start of a fight, I still think, unlike Detonator, they haven't learned to pounce on those advantages yet. No, but the fact is, they were playing so safe, they never really got in those situations anyway.
The difference is, though, between them and Detonator, and I will just give SunSister some credit here. We saw this specifically on Nepal Sanctum, and we did see a little bit of it elsewhere. We saw inklings of it, right? On Nepal Sanctum, there was a moment where they actually made an opportunity for themselves and then capitalized on it, and it was just good play. Like, there's no two ways about that. It was actually just good play. Like, whereas Detonator is sometimes seeing these opportunities and actually capitalizing on them consistently, SunSister did actually make their own opportunity and then capitalized on it. So maybe they're not able to do that second part, and they definitely need to be doing that. But I mean, Detonator's weakness may be that they're not making their own opportunities enough. So I'll give them a bit of credit in that front. But yeah, no, there are still big weaknesses.
Here's the thing: is the big problem for me with SunSister is they look like they just never even want to take a fight. They're like, their playstyle reminds me of, no, we have to wait until we can get a perfect fight, and they just never get there and they back off. Whereas, you know, if the enemy encroaches your territory like that, if you look at the way the best defending team in the tournament, I'll put out there, say AHQ, right? Look at their defense. They stand there, it's like, wait, you're coming to us? Cool, we're gonna smack you down. Look at how Dizzy plays. Dizzy's individual playstyle is how SunSister need to defend as an entire team.
He stands his ground so hard. And even on top of that, right, the main thing is he stands his ground because he knows the absolute limit of when he must retreat. And when he hits that limit, he retreats. That is why their defense looks so good.
And before he retreats,
they'd cede ground if necessary and then come back swinging.
And before he retreats, he'll actually call out to his team and they'll be there. Lazy Titan's always there to back him up, to reduce the amount of times they have to give up ground even further. So that's AHQ and how they play defensively, but I don't think SunSister just seem to give up way too much.
It's like the whole of SunSister is K4 on Soldier. That's kind of the problem. I don't want to rip on K4 because I like the guy.
Skittish.
He's a very good player, but defensively, of the good soldiers in the tournament, he's the first guy to take a dive when things get tough. So that's the thing. If SunSister, the biggest thing that they can take away is look at how Dizzy plays as an individual and adopt his individual playstyle
for your entire team.
But that's the truth.
Yeah, but it actually requires a really good game sense of, and like I said with Dizzy, knowing when to stand your ground and knowing what the absolute limit of that is. It's not about like, oh, get good at standing your ground and just do so to the point of bullheadedness. That's a terrible idea because you're going to lose just as much and you're going to look kind of stupid because you go, why didn't they just back up when it was safe, right? And there are teams that do that sometimes in this tournament. We're like, why didn't they back up then? Why didn't they back up when they had the opportunity? Why do they keep going? Why do they keep committing? So it's understanding that balance, and that is something that they're failing on. They're failing on it one way, but it would be just as bad to fail the other.
I think another thing, just on the flip side, that in SunSister's attack, when Machi was defending, and they were actually mostly losing that initial fight, right? They'd already lost not just Ana at the start, but also a Torbjorn turret, so that's a little bit more time where he's got to set that up as well. They were losing that fight, but they still managed to bring it back by surviving around the point, still managing to contest it. I saw a Roadhog just running around, constantly hiding, healing himself back up, and just staying alive, just to stay contesting on the point. And so by that time, the reinforcements had arrived, and because of how Numbani works, it's about an equal run, if not closer, for the defenders to actually get there.
It's definitely closer.
Yeah.
It is definitely closer.
I think on a minimal, SunSister need to consider, hey, even if we get aggressive and it's dangerous, we look for the trades, because they focus on their own survivability. That's why they play defensive. That's why they play super safe, to the point where they just give things away. They want to be so safe, they don't want to die. But actually, you're just kind of putting yourself in a situation where you're going to get wiped anyway. The better playstyle would be to be maybe overly aggressive, because then at least you can get trades. Getting trades while dying is better than dying and no trades.
Yeah, oh, we lost Zetman, but actually we've got their tank low enough, and our Genji is there. He could get the kill, go for a reset, look for a healer. That is smart decision making. But you're right, it seems they're so worried with their own survivability, like, oh man, we lost Zetman, we've got no tank, get out. And then in so doing, because the Genji's already kind of half committed, he can't get out, and then they lose XQQ, and we're sitting here going like, man, this looks really, really bad. They just seem to lose one guy and fall into disarray.
Oh, next map got revealed?
Yeah, it did.
Hanamura. You're like, yes, that's correct.
Hanamura, yeah.
He's just testing us.
It's Hanamura. The one that's Hanamura.
Ken Volsanubis. Amura.
Hana Volskanubis.
Tower.
Tower of Hana Volskanubis.
Speaking of taking dives, by the way, have you guys heard
Where
the
is this
sound
going?
that Diva...
The what?
Where the sound,
have.
sound that Diva makes in pilot mode if you if you die by jumping off the map.
It's my favorite sound in the
It
game.
is so over dramatic. Like, it is exactly it is exactly the kind of sound I expect a cocky 19-year-old to make when they realize they've made a terrible, deadly mistake.
How overdramatic does it have to be when you're literally falling to your death? Like, come on, give her a break.
Genji dies with honor. He's startled, but that's it. He's like, whoa. But the thing with her, right, is she starts screaming, but then screams even more at the end.
Look, honestly, I'd probably scream the same way if I was falling down a hole like that.
Maybe you're
If all your friends were falling down a hole like that, would you scream the same way?
If we were playing a team of 6 divas, yeah.
All right. SunSister are looking
limits
like they
mode.
might be taking the dive as a team at the moment, so they're going to be able to pick themselves back up. They picked Hanamura, by the way, which Detonator also picked Hanamura. It's a little bit of a similar picking strategy. The only difference we had was control. So now going back onto the same assault as we've had before. SunSister, this is going to be interesting because we can make a direct point of comparison between them and Detonator in terms of performance on the exact same maps.
Did you know if you shoot the blossom trees, the blossoms fall? It looks very pretty. Oh, Diva says game face on, and then she takes a dive. Game face off. Ah! She freaks out, man. I mean, it's also a video game. Like, she's gonna respawn.
She's just resetting her mech. Don't worry about it.
But like, screaming bloody murder about it. She's gonna respawn. It's going to be okay, Diva. Maybe we'll actually be able to hear the sound, because both No Talk and Odinkun are pulling out that Diva. And it is SunSister on defense. Machi already just diving onto this. Let's see if the skittish SunSister back away. But actually, this is it. They're figuring out how to strike back and getting some damage onto Rescue.
Skittish SunSister.
Yeah, they are.
You see that offense, Machi, just that's actually how SunSister need to attack as well. I like that they are holding the ground defensively. They now need to take the fight towards Machi themselves and be able to look for a pick where they can.
Sometimes you've just got to have the cojones to go. They lose DCR 1, so SunSister do look set to repel this one. Good job actually holding their ground. So if we say they need to kind of have the confidence that Machi currently have on the attack,
I don't know about
well,
that.
they are pulling out some confidence on the defense.
XQQ doesn't finish the kill off onto Restia.
He's like, oh man, he could move me off the edge. It's dangerous. Ah.
Yeah, I don't know. You saw that, right? He just backed off. He chose not to finish off that kill. I'm not too sure why.
Like it's self-preservation to the point of timidness.
I'm not too sure. I don't know if it's self-preservation. Maybe he misplayed that. Maybe
Well, that's
wrong
the sound barrier out.
decision-making. But
Again,
here we go.
Machi are committing hard. SunSister have all these tools, but they're only just committing the sound barrier now. Night Owl died, barely got the nano boost off in time, but they're getting nothing for this because they're fighting into a Transcendence. And now they're losing the other few members who had ultimates in Mollis and Zetman. They didn't commit. They waited for Machi to start, and that just gave Machi the window to get what they got with their ultimates.
I don't know about you, but XQQ played that Dragon Blade even super passively. He had the nano boost on him as well, so in terms of survivability, he's got the 50%...
And the sound barrier.
The 50% damage reduction, so he was not going to die. He was looking for targets initially, but I think he was quite reserved with
He's
his
like
dash.
standing there with the sword out, like, all right, who do I go for first? Where do I go? Who
wants some? Who wants some?
Yeah. Come get it. And they're like, we're fine on the point, thanks. I just ate.
All right, this is a very quick offense now from Machi. I like that teams are taking this left side flank from a attacker's perspective.
They are actually going to go into a Graviton, though. Mollis did get that one up in time.
Nice
Big
pickup.
boom. Yeah, no over-dramatic death screams from Odinkun. He just gets a ton of kills. Feels good.
I mean, this is now a good setup by SunSister. They repel the initial first attack after the cap on number 1. And that's a really important fight. I've said this a few times now, but that's the one fight where Machi, based on Snowball, can look to get at least a third off with a good offense. So that being cleaned up by single Graviton Surge, specifically when Machi are running a Diva as well. I mean, well played by SunSister.
Yeah, very, very important. They will in this one be able to get a Dragon Blade out. Hopefully they can pick up a Transcendence as well, would really help the survivability. But they've also got the defender's advantage in their favor. Never mind that. Elu goes down. I just said Favu. I just kind of threw Elu and Favor together. In any case, that's a Diva explosion. Zetman getting picked out there as well. Machi should be able to pick up a third here, assuming they can close out this kill on XQQ before he gets Dragon Blade. And they are definitely trying to get the pressure on him. Nona's opening up now to kill these healers as they come out of the base. Gets Elu as well as he goes into full retreat. Great commit. XQQ knows now is not quite the time to throw out his Dragon Blade. They may just have to see the third. Odinkun does catch something with the self-destruct. So now there's the opportunity for the counterattack. And actually no third to come through. They managed to close out these last few kills quickly enough. What is
He's not going to take the door. He won't take the door because the health pack is going to come up. So XQQ needed to either secure the kill early and leave, or secure the kill early, or just leave. That's what I was trying to say there.
Either or, no in between. He kind of went half and half. He's like, oh, I didn't get the kill, but oh, maybe I can
That's kind of like the Dragon Blade moment
maybe
on
he'll
Cap
just
1,
leave
right?
and I can get this health pack.
That's the Dragon Blade moment on Cap where it was like, who wants some? Who wants some?
Yeah. and the dude's sitting in there with the health pack like, I'm good actually, I'm fine. You've got like, what, 20 health?
All right, well, SST actually have a decent hold now, and I'm glad for XQQ anyway, he held that Dragon Blade, which is very patient of him, very disciplined, doesn't throw it away, which gives them now a good counter-attack option when Machi get their repush. And Machi don't have a lot to work with, just a Transcendence. They're probably going to look to bleed out a few ults from SunSister, and that'll be a big victory for Machi.
Yeah, so SunSister will actually just need to stay disciplined here, and you can see when they don't have the ultimates, Machi take their time. They wait to charge them up, and already starting to get some mileage.
Here we go.
SunSister, no such patience as they throw out a nano boost and a Dragon Blade before Machi committed, get nothing for it. The team is as good as wiped, and now Elu committing the Transcendence to buy time for respawns to come in. It's better than nothing, but you don't want to be in that situation in the first place. Here's the tactical visor to catch SunSister as they come flooding out of the bait. They get Odinkun, Zetman and Night Owl are in a tight spot with very little reinforcements coming now. So the first third goes over to Machi, looking to cap the rest. Now actually SunSister very staggered coming out in the respawns and Machi in full control.
Yep, one by one respawning. This is exactly where you do not want to be. DPS in particular are spawning before tanks, so even the order of spawning is just not working out for SunSister. Here comes the May, and it's not going to be XQQ. Shock and horror. I've never seen that before.
I don't believe it. Yeah, no Lucio. Where are they going to go without mobility? But that is going to be the cap coming through for Machi any minute now. There's still plenty of ultimates for it as well. Whole hog committed. They have the self-destruct if they really want. Oh, last ditch there. Who even is that? It's Mollis actually and Odinkun trying to buy the time, but no such luck. Machi.
I don't even know what happened there. I mean, okay, I do know what happened.
Machi won.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Machi won on a push where they were not favored to win. And it comes down to how SunSister executed that final defense, because look, there were 3 ultimates up against 1. Both teams had Transcendence. SunSister also had a Dragon Blade and a Nano Boost as well. Right?
And then what happened is they committed all 3. They tried to be decisive by committing them first, but they didn't actually go to Machi to do it. They just kind of committed them, and it was the same thing. Like, they pulled out all the stops, and they're like, all right, who wants them? Who wants them? Come get it. Like, yeah, don't you dare touch this point. It's like, look, if you're going to commit a Nano Boost and a Dragon Blade, you have to go to them. They're not going to come to you. They can just wait. Nunez can sit on this high ground you've given him and keep pumping shots into you. And actually then you just have to go into retreat and you look stupid. And then Machi commit, the double transcendences come out, and then from that point on, it's just Machi out frag.
And it was just another situation where, for XQQ in particular, a failed Dragon Blade. He's got nothing out of that. And it's not even like he played the Dragon Blade directly into defensive ultimates, which eventually the Transcendence did come out. But Transcendence or not, he wasn't even in position to actually swing the blade. He had the Dragon Blade activated quite early, still climbing up onto the high ground. He looked like he was struggling to even get past the terrain to even be in position to deal damage.
This is very disconcerting for a moment there with the Reinhardt just like moving back and forward from me. But anyway, now on the defense is Machi. SunSister could actually still cap here. Let's just remember that. I mean, stranger things have happened. This is where Detonator took it to time bank and then unfortunately failed on the time bank.
Well,
but
look at the attackers. Look at what they're running.
okay.
Put Elu back on the main, actually. Actually, don't. Actually, just have no one on the main.
Just
That'd
have
be
no
okay,
one.
too.
Let's see how this works. Let's see how this goes.
Alright, show me what you got, SunSister. Where you gonna go? They're gonna move up in the top left. They should be taking this back position as they are, and Machi should be also rotating to their backwall position, resetting the turret. There it is.
This is interesting. They got triple tank with Zenyatta, but I kind of like this set. I mean, normally I'd say you want Ana for this, but I like how they're doing this because, of course, specifically they got the Roadhog with the self-heal and the Zarya who kind of stays protected. And funny enough, arguably XQQ has a kind of self-heal. Actually, that's a complete lie. They do also have an Ana. I don't know what I'm talking about, but Machi also just kind of walks away from the point.
So this is how SSC need to play this. When the first play from Machi comes in, you wall them up, and that's how you're going to get killed.
There
or
we
you
go.
can get a headshot. This is
Just,
where
yeah.
you get the picks.
That's going to be the dive in as well. There isn't actually a wall to come out, but they're getting the picks anyway. Machi said, went, oh, oops, we gave all that ground. We've got to commit, and they kind of go into SunSister's favor here.
Here we go. They should be able to get DCR1 here. They need to be able to dive onto
There we
him.
go.
Now they clean up.
That's the point.
The other thing that sort of works for Machi's favor here, sorry, not for Machi, but SST's favor here is when the wall does come up, it does block the Tourbillon turret, so they can always take a fight and kind of ignore the Tourbillon turret. But it's interesting, they actually open up that fight by getting the headshot onto Kiyomi, so a little bit unexpected, a little bit almost inconsistent. You can't really rely on stuff like that to happen.
I like
but
how I talked about SunSister having only one healer in Zenyatta with no Ana, and no one corrected me. You just let me go. You just let me be wrong.
I was focused on something else entirely. I'll be honest,
Well,
I
in any
wasn't
case,
really paying attention to that.
Decent opening, actually picking DCR1, and Odinkun now has a grab. They actually want to commit to this fight, and they can probably get something for it. Early Transcendence out of Elu does not save Night Owl, Molten Core, but he gets frozen up in it. What even is that? And that's a good open up by Nunez, but he's not getting a lot of kills. SunSister could keep this one going if they want, but they are looking a little bit lean for healing. Mollis and Zetman both. Self-heal for Mollis, no Icicle for XQQ. They are going to get pushed back. No thirds for SunSister, even with all of those tools. Does stop up the snowball.
They had a really good opening. I mean, again, they get the early picks. They have a bunch of ultimates. Blizzard doesn't really achieve that
But
much.
then Night Owl died.
Wow,
Night Owl died and they couldn't top off the tanks. Elu couldn't save Night Owl in the Transcendence. I mean, once again, right, what are these Transcendences doing for SunSister?
You're right, because these are being misplayed, and it's a real, it's hard to watch because they have the right tools. They always have the right tools going into this. They're just struggling to execute
That is a
properly
very
now.
interesting corner.
SST are completely changing up their lineup.
What's in the corner there? Like, what's he looking at?
He's
there
listening. He's
is there a
listening.
mouse? He's listening. Listen to them.
No, he is, because now he can hear them coming out. He's also looking to get
Oh my
a
God, you're
gravitational
actually
surge
right.
on the wall.
Not that I'm doubting that you'd be right, but no, that's you're completely right. That is really interesting. Well, the trap is...
That is the biggest self-destruct I've seen.
Oh my God.
Somebody clip that. What the hell am I looking at?
They stood there and they listened and then they sprung the trap. I'm so lost for words.
You should have trusted me. Never doubt me again.
No, I didn't doubt you. I didn't doubt you. Like, I didn't mean to sound so disbelieving when I was like, you're right. But yeah, that was really clever.
I cannot wait for that play of the game. I'm waiting for that play of the game.
Okay,
when that happens, we're both just going to shut up and enjoy it.
Yeah, the reason I didn't react was because I'm not allowed to swear. Like that was
if there was
the
ever
only words I had to describe.
If there was ever
that
a moment to swear, that would have probably been it.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I don't have the words to describe what happened there without using vulgarity. That says a lot about me, doesn't it? In any case, XQQ off the Mei onto the Soldier, now coming in for this attack. They've already picked out Mollis though, so this is kind of looking bad for SunSister already. I just hope they don't commit ultimates. Okay, there we go. Why is it they always get the trade backs on the fights that they have already lost?
Well, still getting trade backs is better than not getting trade backs, so it is mileage for them. It is something. Not enough to actually get them a win. Look, we got not that much time, like what, 3 minutes and a half? It's something to deal with, but not even having a third yet. If you can get 1/3 per minute, that would be a kind of achievable goal for SST right now.
I mean, it would be more than nothing, which is what they've got right now.
1/3 per minute. That's what they got to go for.
Man, they got the ultimates up for themselves. Will have this tactical visor nano boost combo. ECR1 will have his ultimate to displace that though and probably hamstring XQQ, given that they don't actually have a diva to dive on top of him.
All right.
But they can just kill XQQ at the start. That could be a plan for them. They're already putting the pressure on. They're not giving SunSister this high ground because they know how much they could potentially do with it. Picking off Mollis now. Here's the commit. They get Elu as well. SunSister, they've already lost their chance to attack before they were even in position to do it.
Did Mollis use something there? Did he use whole hog or did he change here? Yeah, he changed here. Never mind.
Changed,
he was on Genji. This is interesting because SST are sitting on a bunch of stuff and they're hesitant to go in. They're hesitant to attack. And I said, look, are they just too scared? Because we've already had a lot of cases where it just looks like SST, they're just concerned. They're concerned about their own safety and they just don't want to commit.
Hey man, that instinct for self-preservation, it's a hard one to overcome.
Even if you get the respawn.
Is this going to be a Graviton? Oh, doesn't quite have it in time, but he has it now. Yeah, there we go. They're going to funnel into it. Oh no, they're going to do it again.
Okay. This one got the diva maker. This one's a 4. This one's a 3.5 kill.
It wasn't as much as the last one, but shame on me if you fool me twice. Oh, that's the sound.
All right, you're
the
right.
sound.
Okay. Well,
what a drama queen.
I never doubted you, but here's the thing as well, is what's interesting about the self-destruct in this situation is you can never get the full 6 kills. Because the self-destruct at most will get 5.5 on a mech.
Unless Diva's already out of the mech.
That's true, that is actually true. So the next thing that they should probably go for is get Diva out of the mech first and then get a full 6 kills.
6,
yeah. That's the highlight.
And then while that's happening, if the Diva that threw the self-destruct in jumps off a cliff as well, and you just get the full run. You get the scream as well. Anyway, look, SunSister...
That's when an achievement pops up.
Now, the funny thing is, Machi committed 2 ults. SunSister didn't even have time to commit ults. So now they have the full run of them, and they've already committed most of them to this. They've got nothing yet. This is already disastrous, and they haven't even lost the fight.
Sleep.
Good sleep onto Nonez, but they've already lost their 2 healers and 1 of their DPS. Not sure what happened there to No Talk. Seems to have taken a dive, but attack repelled.
Well, if the target was 1/3 per 1 minute, yeah, you kind of missed that. You've got less than 1 minute now left. XQQ going to go on to Widow.
Yeah, on a scale from 1 to 10, you lost.
And we're going to go back in the corner. No Talk doesn't have anything to use just yet.
Everyone quiet.
Has even less to use. No,
he's not going into the corner. He's not going into the corner.
Wow.
Okay. Okay, you got a headshot. Okay.
Well, the guy can aim.
We always knew
the guy can aim, but he's got to secure. Look, a headshot's great, but what are SST doing about this? Are they going to convert more kills? Can they get a 1/3 of the cap? Because it doesn't matter that he's hitting the headshots.
Yeah, when they get on the point, what do they do? What do they do from that point? He's not consistent DPS. He's just going to headshot everyone as they come out of the base.
I hope so.
He's got an angry gorilla in his face now. They've lost Zep. Oh, no one was even on the point. Never mind.
This is the whole story of SST in sort of a nutshell. Is cool, you got the kill, but what's your next move?
All right. Cool. Yeah. Oh, you pulled out the Dragon Blade, but like, what are you going to do with it?
Come at me. Who wants some? Who wants some?
Yeah, that was deeply entertaining.
All right, where's this play of the game? Right, everyone.
It's got to be it. Oh, Yes.
Here we go. Oh boy. Quintuple kill. You heard that correctly.
I haven't seen that since like
Look at Cam's
3
face.
years.
He's like, yep,
Yeah,
that's
he's
just
like, "That's
another
right,
day
that's
at the
right."
office.
He's like, I'm done. That's it.
I quit. I'm retiring.
My work
I
is
mean,
done
he,
here,
he,
boys.
he is done for the day, I guess.
I haven't seen that since like the stress test weekend when no one knew how to play the game and like Diva ults would come out and everyone's like, where do I go? Where do I go?
It was more like, oh, that big exclamation mark over there. I'll stand 10 meters away. That's probably far enough away.
Yeah. What is that? Hold on, let me just go over and check this thing out.
I think I've actually never seen that in professional play before. That just doesn't
neither.
happen because
We've
teams...
seen big ones. We've seen like 3s and 4s,
yeah.
but
Look, Lazy Titans had 4s, but a 5 is something else.
even we've actually seen that Graviton self-destruct combo and I've still never seen one that devastating.
Yeah, we saw it twice in that series.
Yeah.
It was a 3.5 and a 5. Yeah, it's almost like we're looking at like an earthquake on a Richter scale, so they got a 5.0 and a 3.5 is what happened there.
And we're sitting there looking at this earthquake like, yeah, that 4 is just not that devastating. it only destroyed like 30% of the
I
homes.
just realized how topical this is because it is also a Hanamura in Japan, so I mean...
Ouch! Dude!
Okay, it's fact, it's topical in fact, don't worry about it, don't worry about it.
This is topical because Japan has a lot of natural disasters. Like,
No,
come
we're specifically
on, man.
earthquakes. Okay.
Look,
Yeah,
okay,
all right,
so
sure.
Alright, anyway.
there were more than just self-destructs in that map.
Yeah, there were, some other things happened too. Let's actually
A
talk
lot of
about
things
those.
from SST didn't happen, which is the problem, which is kind of why they
Like
lost.
winning?
I mean, like, but the things
They
they
didn't win,
did
which is
that
why they
let
lost.
them not win, because look at what I do want to compliment them on was the way they attacked the first camp, which was, and it was a lot more calculated than I kind of gave them credit for. So the maid came out, but it was how they kind of used it, the plan behind it kind of works out because A, it blocks out the Torbian turret. They were looking to block out and sort of split up the defending members as well. They didn't quite get that, but they kind of got it on DCR 1. But it was that opening headshot on Kiyomi that really gave it to them.
But the way the wall works as well is that it actually also forces the enemy team to come and obviously contest the point, but also they've got to weave their way around the wall because it wasn't entirely blocking out the entrance, right? So people were able to come around, but then that is just an easy funnel for you to shoot into. So of course, at that point, Machi hadn't actually walked onto the point just yet. They were actually giving away progress before even contesting it. They were waiting out the wall, which I think is an okay plan, right? It was the headshot onto the Ana that really sold it there, right? They got the advantage, and in rare fashion for SunSister actually took the advantage, stood their ground, and forced them out away from there.
Yeah, and that's actually the second time in the series as a whole we did actually see them gain an advantage and take it. So again, credit where credit's due. They did it on Nepal and Sanctum. They picked someone, they followed up. It was all actually very well executed. And then same thing there on that first defense on Hanamura. And that's the thing, right? There are things that this team is doing well. There's still glaring mistakes, but you can't help but think that if they were to fix those mistakes, they do have a very real shot at a lot of these matches.
They got a few of the pieces in the right places, but they don't have the full puzzle completed. And I think when they do, that's when this team can be really successful because every now and then you see some sparks of just really great shining moments, but for the most part, it's just
sun
not
shines
quite
through.
there. Yeah, the sun shines through.
We glimpse the power of friendship. We're seeing a lot of the friendship, not much of the power. A lot of the sister, not much of the son.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Well, in any case, look, Machi are happy to pick up that win. I mean, even though both that and the win against Detonator were expected, you're happy. You're happy to have that extra bump in the score. I mean, certainly you'd be terrified if you lost to one of these two teams right now. More so for Machi because they are really going to be gunning for that playoff spot. They have a hard road ahead of them to do it, but we've identified all the things that need to happen, and they do still very much feel within Machi's grasp.
More realistically, the thing that could have happened is actually dropping a map to either one of these teams, and that could have absolutely spelled disaster, not in terms of points, but in terms of, okay, on whatever map they dropped, and for me, it's probably most likely to be Assault, especially against Detonator. if they had dropped that, then that shows that, okay, look, maybe we've got a bit of a weakness here on Assault that we've got to patch up. And hey, that seems to be a bit of the swing map quite often in the series, especially during upsets. Especially upsets is where Assault is actually the less expected team to win, will turn things around and maybe bring them back in their favor.
Yeah, I'm starting to even feel actually that Assault, this may sound a bit harebrained, but Assault isn't a map that necessarily goes to the better team, right? Because of how some of the snowballing of it works. And look, none of these teams are terrible, right? So let's say SunSister have one of their very well executed fights and it's on the second point and they wipe you and they cap and you know they catch you as you're respawning, etc. They do all those things that you normally do when you're capping the second point, and they cap it and they've got like 5 minutes left. And then the other team just doesn't, right? Because SunSister hold adequately. You know, maybe even barely hold because they get the defender's advantage. And that would go, oh look, SunSister upset, right? Well, maybe, but maybe not. Like maybe the other team were fighting generally better, but not quite enough to overcome the defender's advantage. And then SunSister got one great fight after a bunch of terrible ones. That's a thing that can happen. And that is actually what's happening in a lot of these times where these, if you will, lower teams are taking off these Assault maps. Player of the game is, of course, going to be Kant, specifically on D.Va. Surprise,
Why?
surprise.
What did he do?
I actually want to. I want to give half the player of the game also over to I believe it was No
pilot,
Talk.
the mech itself?
No, to No Talk, who I think was the Zaya player. So
Yes. He does think he doesn't talk, he just listens.
Specifically, the reason he was sitting there staring at the corner as well. Like, I mean, yeah,
It was the listening.
listening is a big thing too.
well,
but
time to listen.
Yeah, time to listen to this interview.
两位 Machi Esports 的队员，一位是 Kiyomi 以及 Restia， 先跟大家打声招
Kiyomi and
呼。
Ristia.
大家好，我是 M7 的辅助 Kiyomi。
大家好，我也是 M7 的辅助 Restian。
嗨，两位选手大家好，恭喜你们拿下了2连胜。首先要访问到 Kiyomi 是，其实啊，在闪电狼的 Thinker 以及 DTN 的 Delay 两位选手都说，你的辅助在联赛里面算是数一数
So
二的，
Sinclair
而且
and
安娜
Delay
带给他们很大
both
的
think
压
you're
力。
a
你
really
自己
good
怎么
Ana
想
player.
呢
What do you think about that?
我觉得我的安娜还没有那么实力那么厚，
My
就是
Ana's not that good
可能
yet.
有两位选手比我还要强一点。
Both of those players are
哪
still
两
better
位
than me.
那个闪电狼的新客，还有 HQ 的 Careless。
Sinclair and Carries
哦，
are
原来是
definitely
这个
still
样子，
above
所以
me
你自己
right
心
now.
目中已经有一个排名就是了。
对，
目前自己是第3。
对目前我
Where would you put
觉得
yourself?
自己是第3。
And he says,
哦，那
I'd
其
like
实
to
想
think
要
I'm number
访问
3
一
right
下
now.
Restia，你的队友当中啊，除了 Kiyomi， 因为他年纪比较小嘛，然后面对镜头也是会比较害羞啊，不擅长就是聊天这样。但是你的队上还有一位叫做 No Talk 的队员，好像刚刚台下队友在笑说。人如其名啊，就真的是 no talk。你这样身为队友，沟通上该怎么办呢？
So no talk.
我觉得他私
He
下
really
其实
does. He
话
really
很多
doesn't talk. So how do
私
you?
下是 Kiyomi 还是 no talk？
No Talk 跟 Kiyomi 其实他们私下的话都很多，
然后就是面对镜头会
对他们是
比较害羞
面对。镜头可能就是。
He says no talk and Kiyomi actually speak quite a lot in game, but they just
不过呢
look
No
like
Talk
players
也
that
是
don't
有一
talk
件
much.
事情比较好笑，就是我们在团练的时候嘛，我们在练习的时候，就是 No Talk 经常就是可能他做出一个我们不能理解的行为，我说为什么你要这样做？
哪个
你刚
动作？
就是比如说他乱放大，我就说你为什么要放这个大？然后他就说我没有在听啊，我说你要听啊。然后他就说，我就是听不到啊。
So
然后可是我们那时候其实已经很多
So
人
he
跟
says
他
in
讲了，所以我
scrims
们
actually
后来
no
有说
talk
这个
is
问题
he does talk and actually he doesn't
他上一
listen.
场还不行按到
Is his
Q
problem in scrims?
他是进入到一个无我的境界吗？
对，我觉得有可能是这样子，他可能有他那个他自己的那个无我境界。
哦，所以应该赛后访问应该也要请 No Talk 上来讲一下。
以后务必请他上来。
好，
Next
以后
time we
务
should
必
get
会
no
请
talk
他
to
上，
come
他
up
现在
here
在
and have
挥
a
手
few words, see
了
if he。talks.
对，但是其
Wait.
实上个礼拜我们也知道说 Kiyomi 你自己的家人有来到现场给你
Last
加油
week,
打
your
气嘛，
dad
有
was
没有
here,
什么
Kiyomi?？
他们有没有跟你讲说什么支持的话，让你有什么感动的
Did
呢？
they say anything in
他
particular
们
to you
常
after
常
the
会在
match?
手机传讯息一直支持我，
嗯，
所以就是有感受到温暖。
有感受到温
So
暖
they
好
were- they
我
were
感受到
very
你非常紧张，
warm
但是
and
非常
loving
想要
towards
表
me
达
and
就是
definitely
感谢
supporting
家
me
人们的支持。
of
好
my career，
感谢2位选手接受我们的访问，谢谢，也恭喜 Machi Esports
Thank
拿
you
下了
very
2连胜
much,。
接下来呢
Machi，Esports
要把时间再交给我们沙发
And
区
I
的
think
包
we're going to
子。
go to the couch as well, actually, for an additional one with Kent, and I want to know about what he thinks.
About his amazing play of the game.
有没有很爽？
And that's the first question.
当下是没想到炸那么多啊，炸
didn't think
出
he
来我
was gonna
直
get
接
that
尖
many?
叫。
对
He was just
你
thinking
有
I'll
在
get
现场尖
somebody.
叫
有啊，
对，而且你是第一波炸了5个，第二波炸4个。
You got 5 and then you got 4
这
the
个我
next
觉得
time
是一个
round.
历史记录。你在花村总共第二段炸了9个人。
You got 9 people in total.
对，那最近其实用 D.Va 当然很有名的，还有另外一选手，就是 HQ 的 Lady Titan。那对啊，他的自爆也不错。
So Lazy Titan also gets a lot of people in self-destructs.
比较
误开啊。
That's really
对，
impressive.
误开啊。
但大家也会，因为你在一些情况之下，你也会配合团队使用拦路珠。那当然，拦路珠现在目前就2个了，就你跟 Cowman。那你觉得你们两个
Only you and Cowman specifically bring up the Roadhog?
这个我就觉得不好说了。
不好说。
对，不好说。
我只是想问
Kent doesn't want to comment too much on that.
你们两个拦路珠的风格有没有不一样
What do you want to say in terms of your play styles?
可能 Cowman 打的比较团队吧，我可能偏 solo 吧。
So Cowman plays Hog with his team. I tend to play Hog kind of solo on my own.
那另外也想要问一下，就是你们在训练的过程当中有没有比较有趣的一些事情可以跟大家分享？比如说，可能我们在台上看到 Kiyomi 是一个很温和的人，但是实际上练习的时候整个炸裂。
So what kind of differences between the team members? Kiyomi's a bit shy on stage, but
他的问题可能就是
apparently very
不太会
friendly
理我们的口，就是他会突然冲出去。像昨天，前天就是闪电狼嘛，就是我们花村进攻的时候，我们已经事先都先讲好，就是说要直接就是灌左边近点，然后结果 Kiyomi 就突然自己一个人就冲去右边，然后被培根碾到炸死。
所以他不太会去，有的时候他会比较自顾自，
比较冲动一点啊，比较年轻啊，冲动一点。
So he's a bit young and he's made some interesting plays on his own that kind of got punished by Flash Wolves in
专访
particular.
的时候也点名他，就是说 Kiyomi 的一个他的一个安娜使用的相当不错。
So didn't I think Kiyomi's
我
Anna
们
is
自己在
really
看他
good?
那个第一视角，不管是玩输出还是辅助，真的是很厉害，抖得很厉害。不是啊，就是玩的。
So Ken says both him on support and DPS is actually really
我
strong.
觉得赛季过一半了，非常关键，因为你们现在就是要挑战前半段的队伍，那分别有闪电狼
trying to hit the top 3 right now.
但你们在第3循环对上闪电狼，你们是没有拿下比赛。
But you've already lost to Flash Wolves.
接下来你们会对上 HQ 跟 Brink。
You've still got AHQ
你
and
怎么
Blank
看这
left.
2支队伍？你觉得哪一支队伍会比较难打
What are you going to do against them and who's going to be harder?
最难打的应该就是 AHQ 吧，因为他们不是跟着捏他走的队伍，就是他们坚持他们的三坦地推协同，就是从对岸那边就是一直保持了那个默契，所以我们在打的时候在。
Sorry, excuse the technical difficulties.
跟韩国团练的时候，就是他们基本上都不会出这种就是平推地推的。
So when we scrim Koreans, the Korean teams we scrim against do not bring out triple tanks, so it's very difficult to practice
我们
against
会
that.
没有一个
That's quite interesting.
目标，就是一个对手可以去练他们这种地推。
You wonder if that's almost a form of hiding strategy, because I mean triple tank is something that a lot of teams play.
对，这个我好像有听你们教练之前我访问的时候。
Yeah, we do just seem to be having a few technical difficulties, unfortunately, with the remainder of this interview. Already, though, that's been quite a bit of interesting insight, I think, to Machi, and I feel there's a lot of explanations for where their kind of rise recently has come from, actually.
It has, and I think one of the interesting things he says is he does consider AHQ to be the more difficult of the 2 opponents left. Yeah, they've already lost to Flash Wolves. If they want to break top 3, they've got to get past these other 2 teams.
I mean, if I was in Machi's shoes right now, I'd probably agree, right? AHQ, along with the I don't know if I'd call it unique, but probably unique in the OPC, the compositions that they run that make it difficult to scrim against. But also, they're just
unique
looking...
in Korea too, apparently.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
But they also just look like a stronger team than Blank right now.
Yeah.
Blank just seem, dare I say it, defeatable for Machi.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's been our assessment too, right? Flash Wolves aside between AHQ and Blank. Yeah, look, AHQ are the stronger of the 2. If anything, Blank are struggling. They're struggling to take wins off either of those other top 2 teams. Now, look, if Machi could even beat Blank and AHQ, that would definitely pin them as being top 3 material. I think Machi are giving both of those teams a pretty adequate amount of respect.
I think for Machi, the important thing is, like leaderboard-wise, to get into the top 3. If they can beat both Blank and AHQ, that would not solidify them getting into the top 3, but really set them on the path. And I think
it's not a foot in the door, that's an open door.
At this point, it's actually almost a required thing, short of expecting one of the top 3 teams to just drop a ton of games.
Yeah, that's really the only other way is like you'd never really beat them properly and they just start losing matches.
Which you can't rely on.
Which means like if they're just losing a whole bunch of matches, they're doing it to other teams and then you just be the one who doesn't beat them.
Which is weird as well. I think right now it goes hand in hand. Not only do you need to collect the points, but if you want to collect enough points, you got to beat the teams to actually who are currently in top 3, because that does 2 things. It denies points to those teams and gives you points to then take over them, but it also shows that you can beat them and that you deserve to be there.
Exactly. It's actually not enough to be the one team that doesn't beat the team that you are ahead of in the standings. In any case, Machi picking themselves up 2 extra wins to further inflate their own scoreline, as it were. And speaking of Blank, gentlemen, we will of course be seeing Blank playing up against Fireball for the final match of Day 3 here of Week 7. That is going to be coming on up after a brief break, so don't go anywhere.